Peace and love, everybody. Salute. I hope everybody is doing well. I feel like it's been a little minute, even though it really hasn't. But I guess I've just been taking the last few days to process everything that has been unveiling. And I will be honest that I wasn't quite sure how to approach it about everything that we see unfolding with Ryan Garcia and his inflammatory, disgusting remarks and statements over the last day or two. And I wasn't necessarily certain on how to approach it because I had so many angles to come from. And so many different aspects to highlight amid dissecting or the attempt to dissect everything that we have been seeing from his end. But I think what I find myself most disappointed in, even well beyond the words that were spewed around from Ryan, is that I find myself having an astonishing amount of disappointment for the boxing world as a whole, the boxing community, and the deliberate silence, the opting, the position to opt for silence from the boxing world, fighters, various platforms, and even the so-called platforms that have been speaking, even though it seems as if, language is being had with you and that the subject matter at hand is being discussed and approached, it is not. They are talking, but they are not saying anything to the situation. They are not saying anything of value, and therefore I denote that as silence. That is part and parcel to silence. How they are going about dancing around the issue, not being honest about the situation, still prompting Ryan Garcia up as some, type of victim. Now it's of alcohol, use. Now it's of depression. Now it's of mental illness, everything except being a racist who is inciting inflammatory statements against Black people deliberately and consciously and intentionally. They're choosing not to speak up and be honest about what is at hand, and choosing to opt to mystify the public with subterfuge is beyond repulsive and beyond repair, in my view. Even after all of the hellacious and absolutely despicable statements that Ryan Garcia made, there are still attempts, you guys, across social media platforms and just media, sports media in general. There's still an attempt to balkanize. Okay? There's a divide, a clear separation between views, and one that they are trying to push being that Ryan is somehow innocent of all of this, and trolling is the going term. Not well. So that they are posturing Ryan's immunity and absolvement from his own words, from his own statements. And they are absolving him of his own intention, of his own exemplification and explication of how he feels. They want to exonerate him of his own responsibility to his own words, which is absolutely insane to me. So that, essentially there is a constant pedestalizing of his innocence, making it a central theme. So that now he isn't also responsible for his drug cheating. And he's also not responsible for crazy inflammatory, racial, absolutely despicable statements that he made. All responsibility and accountability has been removed from him, from these panderers and sympathizers of his. It's incredible, you guys, what we have been seeing across the boxing community. Incredible. And I don't believe it has any precedent that we can reference to this magnitude. It's insane. We have people like Sean Porter being interviewed and making the excuse in attributing Ryan's racial tirade to the delusional excuse of, well, maybe he's not feeling so good. You know, he's had a lot of mental issues. This is Sean Porter, you guys. You got people like, of course, the ever idiotic Stephen A. Smith blaming, ultimately, all that we see unfolding on Devin. For Devin having taken the fight in the first place, which is another perspective I've seen all over, well, not all over, but from particular sources on social media. Black men, you guys. And we've also got the ever sassy, whatever that father's name is, Mr. Sass, with his hair to the side, laid to the side. The father of Kid Austin out here on social media saying, well, you know he's not racist, you guys. Come on, y'all know he's... What? You know, Black people, you guys. This has been my source of disappointment over the last day or so. For the reason why I didn't jump on straight away and do a commentary about it, because there was so much unpacking that I was doing with what I was seeing. You know, that really had nothing necessarily to do with Ryan Garcia. He said what he said. Did it galvanize me? Absolutely. Did it incite, the boxing world? Absolutely. But the reverberation is what I was responding to from Black people, particularly in the boxing world. The lack as a response is what I was reacting to. The lack of response, the lack of honest, coherent, forthright assessment of what was going on, the lack of a voice given to the situation intentionally, the intentional avoiding of speaking at this particular time is what I have been dissecting and looking at and taking issue with. Because I do not understand the silence. I just do not. And there are beautiful people out here doing the work. Probably the main one at the moment is the King Champ side, because he is the one that was in dialogue and discussion. He was in discourse with Ryan Garcia. And ultimately, I feel, as he feels, as he said, he weeded out of Ryan what the result was that we got of the racist tirade that he went on. So Champside is definitely on the battlefield, right on the front lines. He was in that war. That was his war, pretty much. And we see the result of that combat, that exchange, because Ryan simply could not deal with the Black man, giving him the business on an intellectual level on which he could not compete. Once again, ain't that something? He couldn't compete with Devin in that ring. And look what he stooped to as a result of not being able to do that. He went in that ring to cheat. And now, when confronted by an intellectual, beautiful brother in the Champ side, now he can't handle that either, because he is a weak motherfucker. And because of that, now 2 days after that exchange and dialogue with Champ side that he had no defense for, he goes on a racial tirade. Ain't that something? Wanting to incite the people that he can't beat in the ring or out of the ring, apparently, as displayed by Devin Haney, and now with Champ side. Shout out also to the LDBC, all of the beautiful kings from 7-8 to BF to Drew Titan and all the beautiful brothers whose names I cannot recall right now, or I'm not familiar with, and because I know it's a very big crew. But shout out to everybody in the LDBC. Because I salute the LDBC. In fact, I can say I'm a part of the LDBC because I share that likeness, and I am also a part of the champ side because I represent that king as well. Shout out to all the beautiful brothers and sisters, the queens of boxing talk, and all the beautiful outlets who have been lending their voices unabashedly. It's needed right now because so many people are choosing to do the opposite and take the cowardly stance and say nothing. Shout out to the real ones lending their voices out here and doing the work and calling attention to this nonsense and to how unacceptable it is on every level, and who are not trying to dilute it with excuses of mental illness or a shot of motherfucking tequila or anything else, but calling it for what it is. Shout out to the real ones, because they are definitely out here and applying pressure. I hopped on a call, a Twitter Spaces yesterday. I saw that my beautiful brother Champside was on it just as I just happened to be scrolling through Twitter, and I joined it. And ultimately, I ended up lending my voice to that particular, panel and call after the beautiful king suggested that I speak, which I obliged, of course. And I'm happy to have been among the Sister Lioness Crown, Sunny G, Tay Jones was also on the call as well, and all the other people who pulled up. And I must say that there are us of our culture out here putting hands in the soil. We are out here diligent and stalwart and serious about the culture and the mission amid all that we see going on here. Okay? In the midst of the rampant folly that is permeating within and around the boxing landscape, it's so easily accessible for us to be distracted, by the subterfuge, by the blatant actions being made to galvanize the black boxing viewer for whatever reason, which is very specific and very interesting to me. This targeting of the black boxing viewer and that of black culture as a whole. And because of the upheaval that it's causing amid, all of this sensationalism, I think it's also easy, because of that dynamic, it's easy to get swept up in the sort of haze and outrage where we can lose sight at this time of the importance of organization, the importance of establishing codes for ourselves, the importance of having open and honest dialogue, making hard-hitting assessments of the things that we see. And as things unfold, I think it's important during this time to educate ourselves, to familiarize more with our history for those of us who aren't privy into the boxing politics and the racism that is long riding within the sport. Tap into yourself at this time. Find out why these inflammatory displays of Ryan Garcia, of racism and prejudice against black people and black culture, why they are a part of the overall language of this country and throughout the globe. Don't be one-dimensional about what you see. Look how this works in tandem with the global system of racism and black suppression. Ryan is a reflection of a mindset, okay? He isn't the mindset. This stuff is centuries upon centuries upon centuries years old. He is a reflection of that mindset that is already long in motion. Pay attention to him and connect the dots. He is not the starting point. In the Twitter space dialogue, it was great to see At least what I walked away with was a feeling of gratefulness of seeing a larger conversation being had regarding Ryan Garcia that was taking place outside of the regular confines of the boxing circle, like this YouTube channel or that page or this person that we are familiar with, but people who are not necessarily affiliated with the boxing world, who do not necessarily do boxing commentary, having an opinion on this matter. People who, were just brought to it because they are Twitter goers and it's a trending topic right now. And so they just so happen to tap in and caught wind of what was going on with Ryan's statements and who are now invested in seeing some type of ramifications be brought to Ryan. This is what I was among yesterday alongside Champside. All sorts of people, boxing goers and people who have no idea who the fuck Ryan or Devin is or anybody else for that matter, but who are generally interested in the outcome and generally appalled by the statements that were made as a whole. These are the people that were engaging in conversation and interested from all perspectives and wanting to apply the necessary pressure wherever it could be applied, whether that is, getting at Ryan's sponsors, pushing back at them and having them no longer endorse him or whatever the ramifications would be. People were interested in seeing what the next move is because we all understood, no matter what background we had with boxing or non-connection with boxing, we all knew and agreed that something has to be done and that this cannot persist. Amid all of this, you guys, another thing that came to mind was the aspect of Blackness as a lifeline, as a resource, right? I think it's an interesting aspect to be aware of this as it pertains to Ryan Garcia, particularly, of course, as he is the subject matter of today. There's a continuous association with Blackness that Ryan makes certain that he has access to, and that he makes certain is obviously needed to him in one form or another, whether he is appropriating that Blackness, extorting it, mimicking it, or as we see now, trying to berate and show a revilement of it. Nonetheless, his hand is in the black pot for relevance, one way or another. As a fighter, when you think about it, his only semblance of significance came by way of fighting two elite black men, the most prominent boxers in the weight division that he fought at. Okay? The two most prominent figures. They are the only ones who added credence to his resume of all the fighters that he's faced. Tank Davis and, of course, Devin Haney. It is via black men that he had the opportunity to fight for a title shot. The first ever title shot of his career, of course, which he blew, but that came by way of a black man. And also via black excellence came his ability to fight on pay-per-view for the first time in the entirety of his career. Look at that. It seems to me that Blackness is a lifeline for him. One that nourishes and that has supplied and continues to supply amazing resources to Ryan Garcia for his relevance in the boxing world. Even in his running as fast as he could to the world-class boxing gym, into the arms of the lovely, coveted trainer, Derek James, and the entirely black stable. He ran there for what? Wisdom, credibility, skill, fundamentals, you name it. Once again, as I said, his hand in the black pot of resources that are replete with information, replete with foundation, and replete with identity. Seems to me like he benefits and has benefited quite a great deal from the blackness that he's trying to berate. And while we are on the subject of blackness as a resource and an identity, as it pertains to us now, I'm shifting the focus to us. I find it highly questionable that when the space arises to assume and engender this identity, this blackness of ours, to use it to enforce, to direct, to motivate counter thought and organization among our own, or for causes that affect us particularly, whenever we try to assume this for that particular purpose, things tend to go quiet in the boxing world as we see now and wherever. The dipping into the pot is all fun and games when we are using it for clicks and baits and new dances and Twitter fingers and myopic entertainment and excitement. When things are based in, asininity, caprice, fanfare, leisure, or what have you. But when it is time to dip into that black pot, that black resource, when real topics arise, when it is time to use blackness as an authority, as a compass, suddenly that blackness has no seat at the table. Suddenly that blackness has no direction. And if it is allowed, it must come humbly, quote unquote. People get to running out of rooms, logging off of accounts when blackness as an action is exemplified or demanded of. That is the energy that we see happening within the boxing world right now among several platforms, mediums, people, you name it. And with fighters themselves, unfortunately. Where are the content creators here on YouTube saying that Ryan's statements were absolutely unacceptable and that they will not stand for that, whether they sided with him previously or not? Why are we seeing from any platform sentiments steeped in a tone of apologizing for Ryan, citing drinking and other excuses for his hateful speech and threatening language? Threatening language. Moreover, where are the fighters? Where have they been since Ryan's racist rant? It's motherfucking quiet as hell out here. I've never seen, what do you call those things in the Wild Wild West movies? The tumbling weeds? It's motherfucking deserted out here. It's a desert out here. Especially considering the fighters who supported him in the wake of his drug cheating. Where they at? Where is Tank Davis? The person who has probably been the most outspoken patron of Ryan Garcia in the boxing world since he was caught for his drug cheating. Where is Tank Davis? Where are the tweets and the public statements and the interviews? I'd like to know his thoughts personally about Mr. Garcia's comments. Where is Floyd Mayweather, the man who publicly backed him for this fight during the build and in the immediate aftermath of that fight? What does Floyd have to say about Ryan's aspirations towards clan membership? What does he have to say about that? Where are the vets of the game? Black fighters, journalists, commentators, coaches. What does Derek James have to say about this? Shout out to the king. I don't want to put him on the spot or anybody on the spot, real talk. But where are you? Where are you? What is the reason for the deliberate silence on this issue? I cannot wrap my head around that. And I'm not going to act as if it's not, real and obvious that your blatant absence from the matter is strange and inexplicable to people like me who have questions. There are barely a handful of people in the boxing world that I can account for who have lent their voices. The sister, Clarissa Shields. The sister, Franchon Cruz DeZern. Shout out to the king, Ishe Smith. Caleb Plant is standing on business. Stephen Jackson, of course, not a boxer but a sportsman. He has added his voice and stepped up to the plate. Lamont Roach. That is literally all that I can account for. And Victor Conti. Funny enough, who has more balls than all of you motherfuckers who was talking about him. Like some gossip girls. He stood on more business than any one of you cowards. It's been days, y'all, since the incident. Where's everybody at? Outside of the select few. Is this silence so thick because fighters are afraid of being politicized? It's too late for that. Yes, this is boxing, but everything is political. From the Nike brand that you wear and are endorsed by to the fashion logo that you proudly hold on your chest like a motherfucking Superman badge or something. Everything is politicized. Everything comes with a point of view and an identity and a distinct association attached to it. People rep that every day with no problem. But when it's time to rep yourself and your culture and your people, you are a ghost. You come to feed off of your people who come to support you, buy your pay-per-views, buy your merch, subscribe to your pages, support you, stand up for you, put you on their pound for pound list, keep you at the forefront of their dialogue, and you are nowhere to be found for them. What can we really say is the difference between the exploitation of Blackness as a lifeline by Ryan Garcia or any other culture vulture and you? What is the dividing line there when your hand is in the pot and you refuse to replenish it with your representation and your support of the people that show up for you and of the people who have an issue that needs a voice attached to it, a solidarity attached to it, intelligibility attached to it, soundness attached to it, militance even attached to it, support as a whole, whatever you want to call it. You are nowhere to be found. And I question everybody who is silent right now. What set are you repping, knowing what you know now? This is to everyone. What set are you repping right now? That is my question to the boxing community at this time. Seeing what you've seen today, yesterday, last week, 3 months ago, what is your standing? I want to call focus at this time to our minds, because I think more important than going on a tirade about what Ryan said or how he said it and any of that, what is more imperative is how we organize. As I said in my previous video, we need a sound group of intellectuals, conscious boxing goers, whoever we are, where we can stand as a unified voice, consolidate our influence, our perspectives to make some serious moves in the sport and outside of the sport, just culturally. That is needed. For example, there's no reason why, every single one of us should not be getting together and going on Ryan's page to do something simple like report that motherfucking page and have it taken down at the very least. Something. Did anybody report Ryan's social media since the outrage? I sure did. And it only took me a minute. There has to be a front, a structure, some type of code that we can stand on to provide necessary enforcement where needed, even in the quote unquote small ways. Another example, goes for fighters in the sport, who are in support of Ryan Garcia, whether blatantly or silently. What do we do with them moving forward? Can we collectively stand to not support such fighters that co-sign and back blatant disrespectful prejudice? You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case is, how do we show organization within that issue? Because it's about organization. Cognizance, self-governed authority is needed at this time from Black boxing fans, supporters, enthusiasts, and just cognizant people in general. What are you looking to do is the ultimate question that I posit. What are you looking to do? Even if it's not in a group, but on your own time. What are you looking to do? This question is much bigger than Ryan Garcia, much deeper than his little frail ass. This is way above his head. He can't even see us on that level, on any level. This goes way deeper than that. Because real talk, at this time, I'm not interested in the fanatical. I'm not interested in any rabid, blind emotion being culled via, a reaction or a response to this man's attempts to shock and inflame. I'm past that. I am much more interested in Black power, Black development, Black culture, Black language, Black thought, intelligence, beauty, creativity. I'm much more interested in building collaboration, counter narratives, creating and defining clear, strict, enforced codes that we can stand on and step with correctly in everything that we do. I'm on that time. I'm much more interested in showing up for us and exemplifying what standing on business looks like in whatever we do. What is your mind on? After the Twitter posts are deleted, after the new talk point emerges, and everybody's forgotten and moved on from this, after we, start looking ahead to other fights and this just becomes some type of vague mist of the past, what set are you going to be repping then? Are you going to be on code or simply on to the next wave? That's it for me, y'all. I'm on to the next. Peace.